am Kenny Anderson, Director of Multicultural Affairs for the City of Huntsville, and welcome to Impact. Each week we bring you information about exciting things that are happening in our community, and today is no different. And many of you know that I do a radio show called Second Chance, and that show, the whole premise of that show, is to really highlight the good news in people's lives about how they have gone through various things in life and overcome those things. Well, my guest today is a true second chance story, and I'm so glad to have him on the broadcast today. He's William Hollis. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you for having me, King.
It's great to have you, man. You know, we've been talking about this for a little bit, and I'm glad to make it happen right now. Now, William is a youth mentor, motivational speaker, also known by many as Urban Youth's vocal powerhouse. It's just good to have you here today, and we're going to touch on a lot of things today, but I promise that won't be enough time, so I'm already going to tell people that this is the first of another show that we're going to do. It'll be a two-part process in getting the story out. So let's dive right in. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing.
My upbringing was, it's similar to a lot of inner city kids that grow up in America. We watch our mothers and our fathers, they do drugs, you know, some abuse alcohol, you know, just to get through the pain of living in poverty, you know what I mean? And my mother, she had 3 kids before she was even able to buy alcohol. She was one of the most strongest, most phenomenal women I've ever had the privilege to meet. That was my queen. Tupac had a saying, even as a crack fiend, mama, you always was a black queen, mama. And that was my mother in a nutshell. She was molested by her father as a child, which caused her to go through traumatic experiences. She used drugs to cover up the pain of that because, you know, in the inner city, we never really have the psychiatrists, the doctors, to help us cope with our problems. They just make us just keep going. They just push us to the wolves, and we just have to keep living. And my mother, she dropped out of school probably in the 9th grade. She had 3 babies. She had no choice but to be a full-time mother. She had a 1-bedroom apartment. I remember we stayed in that apartment. She gave us the room. She slept in the living room. And ever since I was little, the only thing I wanted to do was make my mama proud. I wanted to make my mama smile. One day I used to watch movies of women in nice furs, nice outfits, and I wanted to dress her up. I wanted to treat her like a queen. And growing up, we would go back and forth to my grandmother's house, back to my mom's house. Like many other kids in America today, a lot of them, they're living with their grandmother, but in the inside, they're fighting something that hurts them so bad because they want to be with mama, but they don't understand that drugs and alcohol, it's not an addiction, it's a disease. And I know how much my mother loved me, so I know how strong that drug was. I remember times when I would be riding down the street with my grandmother, and I would see my mom and my auntie, they'll be walking down the street, and I would see my mom and I'd go berserk in the car. I'd say, stop the car, stop the car. And at the time I was 12 years old, I got out the car and I ran up to my mother and I said, Mama, I want you, like we need you. And I saw her break down in tears, and she told me something. She said, Will, you don't understand now, but you're gonna have to be a man before you become a man. She told me you're gonna have to be exceptional in everything you do. And she used to call me, she told me, she said, Will, you are the chosen one. When I was growing up, I had a severe learning disability. I couldn't read till I was 16 years old. And I was embarrassed every day to go to school. I stayed in one classroom, special education. They looked at me like my father. My father was a violent man. He sold drugs, he robbed people. And throughout the city, you know, in the streets, it's like pedigrees. You know, if your father was a Chihuahua, the streets gonna believe you're a Chihuahua. If your father a pit bull, they gonna believe you a pit bull. And just like people who buy kennels, they look for that bloodline. And I was one of those huge bloodlines. They wanted me. The streets wanted me. But I always knew, how can I change my family tree? I say, if you're watching a tree that is rotten and everything is dying on it, what do you do? And I came up in my head at a young age that I gotta replant this family tree. I gotta nourish it a different way. I gotta take care of it a different way. And when I was watching my mother go in and out of rehab, struggle with all these things, I had set a clock in my head because I already knew of friends' fathers and mothers of passing away from drug overdoses. And I had, ever since I was a kid, I had a clock in my head stating that if I don't be successful, my mother will die here. And I had that my whole life. That's the only thing I thought about. And I got into football. My auntie, she put me in football, and one day, it was a tryout, and he lined me up at linebacker, gave me equipment and everything, and we didn't have the money to pay for the equipment. It was me and my brother was sitting on the field, and I saw my brother on the sideline, and I said, I got to make a way so we could play this game. This is a fun game. And I had anger issues. I used to always fight in school and be so angry at my life and my father missing. The wide receiver ran a crossing pattern. The first play, I knocked him out, knocked his helmet off his head. Soon as I knocked his helmet off the head, the coach said, give him and his brother his equipment for free. They're going to be Pontiac Jets.
Wow.
And ever since then, the second practice, the coach said, Will, you're very mature for your age. Why don't you smile and laugh like the other kids? And I simply replied at 12 years old, because I have a life to save. I don't have room to play. And he said, William, if you dedicate your life to this game, if you dedicate your life to your craft and anything you do, you will save your mother. And from that day forth, I dedicated myself to the game. When the commercials came on, I did push-ups. When my other kids was out there at the playground playing on the monkey bars and swinging, I was running sprints. My little chubby butt was running sprints back and forth, trying to get in shape, trying to stay in shape. And eventually it paid off. I came all the way up to my junior year of high school. My cousin, Sarah Rogers, who played for the San Diego Chargers, called my mother and was like, William is making a lot of great noise in Michigan as a football player. I would love for him to come to Los Angeles, California and live with me. So I moved, something like Will Smith from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Marina Del Rey, California, Ken Norton next door to me, the boxer, met him, and his son, the linebacker that coached with the 49ers. Then Damon Wayans and his wife, they were divorced at the time, but her son is all on television. I literally used to look out the window and watch them shooting pilots to send off to producers. Faith Evans was right around the corner. It was like, it blew my mind. I remember being there and realizing when I flew out, I was like, Will, okay, this is something you have to do. This is what my mother meant when she said, you're gonna have to be a man, before you become a man. And I thought about my sisters and brothers. I'm looking at them in this big old mansion. I'm about 15 steps away from the Pacific Ocean, down in Marina Del Rey. I'm seeing some of the most beautiful things in the world. But what I realized was I never wanted anything for myself. I only cared about if my brother, my sister, and my mother enjoyed it too. So everything we did, I never enjoyed it. Everything I seen when I went to amusement parks, I never enjoyed it because it was nothing. My little family, that little family that my mom had in that one-bedroom apartment, that was my whole family. That gave me an existence. That gave me a pride, you know what I mean? It was a certain pride. And when I was there, my cousin, he did a great thing for me. His son drove a Mercedes. I didn't have my license. I rode with him every day to school. And when he would go to the mall, they would get hundreds of dollars. I would get $20 to get a Cinnabon. But he did this because he told me, he said, Will, your situation will never be like theirs. You're going to have to be stronger. So I gave you an environment to harness your gifts as a football player, but I will not turn you into a spoiled child. And out of all those kids, except for one, the baby boy that's at Nevada right now, quarterback Armani Rogers, he's an amazing athlete. I love that little kid. I was the one that went the furthest in football. As far as after college, throughout all the accolades, I was the one who did it. And it was because of the simple fact that I learned at a young age, you cannot cheat hard work. You cannot cheat the process. You're going to have to go through pain. You're going to have to go through tears. And that's what makes you a man. That's what builds your character. And as I continued to play, I went to West LA Community College because of my learning disability. I couldn't pass the SAT test. I had Oregon. Don Pullum came down in his fancy suits and used to watch me practice. Arizona State. Whole bunch of colleges. They used to come check me out, but they knew my grades was not up to par. A small secret that I never told anyone, when I moved to Los Angeles, I was academically ineligible. I had a principal, I won't say his name, great man, He changed my whole transcripts. This is nothing but God. He changed my transcript so I would be able to be eligible to play in Los Angeles, California. I went out there, recorded 117 tackles, my first season, my first and only season at Alexander Hamilton High School in Los Angeles, California, the alma mater of Warren Moon. They said Warren Moon played here. And I was like, wow, that guy, he was a legend. Everybody loved Warren Moon because, as an African-American quarterback, that's absolutely amazing.
That's the goal.
Yeah, yes. And I went to take an SAT test, and this is when God really stepped in my life. The principal came out the building and said, William Hollis, I was in my coach line. I was getting ready to let a kid take my SAT test so I can go to college. I was getting ready to cheat the process.
Wow.
The principal came out and said, William Hollis, you get in the other line. I went to the other line, and I knew that very moment that I wasn't going to go to Division I college right away. I was going to have to take the long path. So I did that, failed it terribly, and I went on to junior college, West LA Community College. I broke the single season tackle record at 17 years old. I think I had 125 tackles in one season. And going into the athletic department's office after the season had ended to pick up my All-American accolade, my award, I had a bag of marijuana in my pocket. And this is God again. I dropped the marijuana leaving out the office with my award. And I used to smoke because the pain of knowing my mother's struggling, knowing my mother's on drugs, not knowing what man is doing what to her. I used to smoke to take the pain away, just to keep me numb, to get through the day. And I dropped it, and the new head coach had told me, William, you either gonna set out this year or you gonna have to transfer. For me, I told you I had this ticking clock in my head. I could not stop. I could not take a year off. Every moment, every day, I was faced with this clock in my head thinking that my mother is going to pass away. And eventually, I tell them that I got to go. I got a life to save. I apologize. You were right. I was wrong. And I'll take my lick. I would leave West LA Community College. I went over got a call from a friend that was at El Camino Junior College with a coach named John Featherstone, one of the most legendary coaches in California JUCO history. I went over there and he said, William Hollis, I heard about what happened to you. He said, but look, your past is your past, and what you do with your future is what matters right now. Can you come play defensive end for me? I went over there. I didn't even play defensive end. I was a linebacker. He said, William, I seen something in you, and I know you can play defensive end. I argued. I go into the season. I finished second with 14.5 sacks behind Jason Pierre-Paul, the New York Giants, was playing at College of the Canyons.
Wow.
I set the standard for defensive end at El Camino Junior College. I struggled again in academics because I didn't get the proper sitting down and reading every night as a child and working on my mathematics that, like I see so many people in Huntsville. I tell people all the time, it is like heaven here to me because I've never seen so many black put together families in my life. They don't understand. Some inner city kids ain't ever even ate at a dinner table. So that was amazing to me. So after the season, I was getting ready to go back to Michigan. I thought my life was over with. I failed badly in school. All the D1 scholarships that was there for me had to pull a scholarship off the table because my grades wasn't up to par. I got a call from a coach named Willie Slater. This is God again. Not Willie Slater, but I'm sorry, Willie Fritz at the University of Central Missouri. He called me and he said, William Hollis, do you want to come play college football? I said, Coach, I don't have the grades. He said, William Hollis, do you want to play college football? I said, absolutely. He said, well, there's a flight leaving out Saturday. You be on it. I said, Coach, how? He said, it's not how. Get on the plane. They changed my transcripts again. If I didn't get that scholarship, I'm in the streets of Detroit selling dope, like the biggest dope dealers in the city. That's God said, I'm going to save you. I'm going to keep you here. When I went to Central Missouri, they got a new defensive coordinator. He came in and he said, I have a senior that has to play in front of you. Man, I got this clock ticking in my head. I said, well, Coach, I just won defensive MVP in the spring. I need to start. I'm a JUCO kid, because every JUCO kid know when we come out of college, we gotta play right away. We only got 2 left to be on the big stage. And when he told me that he wanted the senior to play, and he felt like I wasn't smart enough to learn this playbook, because this is what a lot of people didn't know about me. Throughout my All-American career as a football player, I never knew how to read a playbook. I learned of watching plays and mannerisms of bodies, signs of like for instance, like I had a running back for College of the Canyons. I would watch instincts of the players, like one will hold their head down before they get the ball. I would watch body language, and I would shut them down. But the coaches never really realized that, like, I literally never knew how to read the playbook. And the coach told me, basically, in a nutshell, you're too dumb to play college linebacker on this level. I had a coach that I reached out to, I sent the email to, named Kelvin Powell. He's an All-American at, he's a Hall of Famer at the Tuskegee University. He brung me down, flew me into Atlanta, Georgia, to Clark Atlanta University. The coach said, I won't release you to anybody else but an HBCU. At this time, I knew nothing about an HBCU. I went down to Clark Atlanta University, and within 7 games, I recorded 84 tackles, 5 forced fumbles, 5 fumble recoveries, 2 interceptions for touchdowns, and 17.5 tackles for loss, and was nominated for the D2 Heisman Trophy. And he told me I was too dumb to play linebacker.
Wow.
He saw my name popping up, and the coach sent me a message and said, boy, was I wrong. And I said, Coach, I love you. And this is when I learned the effect of love. This is when I learned if a person says, I hate you, and you say, I love you, and he keeps saying, I hate you, and you say, I love you, that love is always going to win, because love is so powerful.
Wow.
And this is what I learned at a young age, to love who hates me.
Yeah. That is a very powerful story, and as I said, this is only part 1 of the story.
Yes, sir.
We want to get to the rest of the story. We want to find out what happened to your mom, find out where you are right now in the process as you move all over this country, motivating young people.
Absolutely.
You're a very powerful voice in that process, and it is clearly that way because of the experiences that you've had. We want to come back and do this one more time. Would you come back and talk to us and finish this story?
Absolutely, absolutely, sir. It would be an honor. Mr. Anderson, last year I told you, I saw your show. My mentor, Delvin Sullivan, was on your show. And at that time, I was practically homeless. And that man, he lifted me up, and he gave me a sense of family. And that's when I realized a lot of these inner city kids, if you give them love and just a piece of your heart, they can do amazing things in this world. And mentors are very important. And Tony McGinnis, Delvin Sullivan, those are my mentors. And I loved your show when I watched it, and I said, one day I'm going to be on that show. And I bumped into you, and you gave a kid an opportunity. And this is only the beginning, and I want an opportunity. Anybody that knows my story, Huntsville, I speak all over, but Huntsville seems in the Madison County. I want to reach more high schools, and I want to teach them unity. I want to teach them how to love who hates them. I want to teach them to live inside their head and be spectacular and be phenomenal on this earth and get what God has for you, because everybody on this earth is a walking $1 million check. God's just waiting on you to sign it.
William Hollis. I mean, I couldn't have said it better. He's Urban Youth's vocal powerhouse. Thank you for being here with us today, and we're going to come back and talk to you again.
Yes, sir.
Wow. I hope that you're feeling inspired this afternoon and energized and empowered by those very powerful words from William Hollis as he shares his life story. And that's just the beginning. That's just the first part of the story. There's so much more to be told, and we're going to let you hear more of that in a future episode of this broadcast. We hope that you will like our Impact with Kenny Anderson page, where you can see a video of the show that you just watched. We hope that you'll share it with somebody who definitely needs to hear it. And then check out some photos of behind the scenes once the camera stops rolling. For Impact, I'm Kenny Anderson. I hope that you have a great day.